ever find yourself wondering why your teen shuts down, explodes, or pulls away and not knowing what to do about it? Well, in this episode, I'm joined by therapist and parenting expert Sari Rose Barron to explore the messy, beautiful, and often triggering world of parenting teens. We talk about how to stay grounded when your teen is testing limits, how your own inner child shows up in those tough moments, and why connection, not control, is the real key. You'll hear powerful insights on emotional regulation, parts work, and how to build trust through repair, not perfection. If you're new here, you're listening to the How We Get Through podcast, a space for real, unfiltered conversations with healers, helpers, and humans who've been through it. I'm your host, Jen, a licensed therapist and your guide into how we get woo, a space where you don't just listen to healers, but you experience them. Inside the community, you'll find rituals, journal prompts, meditations, and soul-expanding live events that leave you feeling more intuitive and whole. So if you're feeling the pull, we'd love to have you inside. The link's in the show notes. Welcome back to How We Get Through. Welcome back to How We Get Through. We have a special Mother's Day May parenting edition with Sari Rose Barron. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Jen.
Oh, it's so exciting. So Sari is a mom, first of all, and she's also a licensed therapist. And we have our therapist sweaters on today. We are ready to help ourselves and help other parents out there because it is rough these days.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, the environmental external stuff that's going on in the world and then just parenting itself is really hard.
Yeah, which I think is a very good point because I just feel there's so much pressure on parents to know everything and know all the dangers and know all of the stuff. And then we're like, okay, well, we're not doing it well here. We're not doing it good here. It just feels very overwhelming to be a parent.
Yes, it does. And I feel like, I say this a lot with clients too, just this idea of attachment. It's like we feel all of this pressure to be perfect, but actually perfect parenting doesn't foster secure attachment. It fosters, right? It fosters
Say that
anxious
again.
attachment. Okay.
Yeah.
I know I have to remind myself that too, because human first as a therapist, right? But perfect parenting doesn't actually foster secure attachment. It's actually those little misattunements or those imperfections and us finding our way back to attunement through repair. That's what fosters the security in the connection. So someone who's like a perfectionist like myself doesn't like to get my head wrapped around that because I'm like, can't be good enough. But actually, it's kind of like reassuring to ground yourself in that idea that we're human, we can mess up, and it's actually just in the repair. I mean, the mess ups need to hopefully not live in severe neglect, severe abuse land, right? That's different. But like day to day parenting struggles where we're like just trying to survive and we're missing the mark a little bit, is actually, it's just a nice reframe. It's actually really healthy for the connection and it's a good modeling for them to see too, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you're modeling that it's okay to be not perfect, number one. And I think that is it's a reframe and a refocus of how to be gentle on yourself as well. It's like the double part of that. Like if I can give myself grace and repair with me for yelling at my kids and focus on the repair, because I think people kind of know that, like that script is kind of running in the background, but the behavior is always like, oh, I fucked up. Oh, I didn't do this right. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Like this isn't what I was supposed to say. All the blah, 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 blah. So we kind of get caught up into our behavior of what is happening versus the after effects of it.
Yes. And I love that you said that, Jen, because I feel like actually I have to, again, remind myself of this as a parent, but also it comes up so much working with, parents and certainly teens. But this idea, like there's so much attention on the behavior and trying to modify behavior and the strategies around behavior. And all of that is really helpful, like great. But it's actually what's going on underneath the behavior. And as a parent, I think if you can look through that lens that the behavior is telling you something about need or something about their own dysregulation. And in order to do that, I think sometimes we have to like look inwards and calm our own like selves down because we lose our shit when they lose their shit and vice versa. We're in this like vicious cycle. But when we can ground ourselves, we're much more able to be curious about their experience and need them to like, they can just be them. They're just doing what they're supposed to be doing
Yeah.
as a teen or a kid,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, and that makes me wonder about why we're so obsessed about behavior. Like, is it the psychological cycle of it all, like CBT, like that stuff? Is it the pressure for school? Is it the shaming of your kid should act a certain way? Like, we're very focused on behavior. I'm like, why the how did we get here?
I know. And it's crazy, right? Because I think when you say CBT and when you say behavior, I'm like, right, those are the things I think are first go-tos of like, that helps keep us in control. Like if we can just control our behavior, if we can control the way we feel, if we can control our kids' behavior, then somehow it's validating that we're doing something right, maybe,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yes, that we're a good mom.
Versus like actually, and this is part of what I have a course, Raising Your Teen Without Losing Your Mind.
Oh, I love it.
And it's so much of it, okay, yes, behavior strategies, that's in there because I think we feel grounded in that. But so much of it is on how we can actually learn to be in control of our regulation. And that doesn't mean we have to be regulated all the time. It's actually just
Say
snapping.
that
It's
again.
actually, well, right. I mean, right. It's actually around acknowledging, having compassion with ourselves so we don't get into this like vicious cycle that enhances dysregulation, and around how we find our footing and noticing like our own triggers that are coming up, what we're projecting onto our kids, what we're needing from our kids. And that then, like, our behavior is a symptom of something, right? And so we're looking at what's underneath that. I mean, I think that's more like a trauma informed way of looking at it. And when I say trauma, it doesn't have to be these like big T traumas, but it's really what is getting triggered in us. And that's becomes actually the focus rather than fix the behavior when we're ignoring this other big piece of what's actually getting stirred up in us.
Yeah, and I think some parents might be like, "Oh, I gotta do work again. I gotta like, blah, like this is a lot." But it's in some way, you're already focusing on yourself too much. Like, do you know what I mean? You're already shaming yourself. You're already saying, "Why the fuck did you do that?" You're already beating yourself up of not being good enough. Like, this is just that, like flipping the script of it. Okay, like what happened for me in that?
Right. And we're looking, I think, sometimes at our kids to validate that we're doing it right by their
Yes.
behavior. Like, oh, they're not shutting down. Awesome. I did a good job. Oh, they're, getting great grades at school and meeting all of their marks. Great. Good job, parent. When actually like we're looking externally for validation, and that's putting a lot of pressure on them and a lot of pressure on us, which is something that I think it's again like going back to to self a little bit around how do I stay regulated so that I can just be the container and hold space for when they mess up? Because I don't want them to feel like they have to be perfect human beings. I mean, I'm trying to do that myself, which is like you could die trying,
Mhm.
you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. I was just listening to a video, I'm bad with names, David something, and he's like spiritual self-help. I think he does astrology, whatever. But he said something really important. He said, when people take things personally, that means you're wanting something from that person. You're wanting money, you're wanting love, you're wanting respect, you're wanting attention, whatever it is. And that I was thinking about today's podcast with that. And it's like when I feel either it's behavior, like my son will say, like, I hate you or you're so mean. Um, I'm like, how do I not take that personally? Because what I do want from him in that moment is love. Like, hey, dude, I'm trying the best I can here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fucking a superstar. But am I not? Are you telling me I'm not? Like, are you telling me that I'm not good enough? But really, that is coming from me and my perspective of self. And so, obviously, I'm going through a divorce, and so things feel a little bit more sensitive. But he was saying that shit before, so
Yes.
So
which
I
is
do.
like normal, this push pull. Like I hate you, but I really love you and I need you and don't ever go anywhere because I love you because you're my person. And that happens in teenhood too, right? Like it's like very loud in teenhood as well as in, I mean, honestly, all the stages of life, right?
All
But
the above.
I still feel that way about my parents
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
40 years old, still hate him. No.
That's right. 43. Here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Still running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is true. So when he says that, I'm like in obviously a transition period, but I keep reminding myself, oh, you were saying this before, and I didn't feel that attachment before that you actually hate me, because this is something that you need to say. Something's really upsetting you, And so, but that's really clear for me in that moment. But there's other things that I'm like, oh, I'm taking this personal, And I think we all have our little tiffs that we can like gravitate towards and hold on to. And it becomes like this personal vendetta that my kid's doing this to me.
That's
Or
right. That's right. I find it a lot. I know that I find this even with myself, with my kids, and also, in working with parents, especially in those moments where kids are coming to you in need and they're acting out. Let's say they're either shutting down or they're slamming things around. And it's like all of a sudden I'm failing. I'm failing him because I have two boys. I'm failing him. I'm failing myself. Holy shit. And now I'm catastrophic thinking and I'm like an awful parent. Why did I even have kids? Right.
yes,
Like,
yes.
I mean, it can cycle
That's
like,
it.
oh my God, what am I supposed to do? And also I don't know if you feel this way, Jen, but it's also like in, enhanced or magnified because I'm like, I'm a therapist. I'm supposed to know the things.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm like, okay, right. But human first, human first. And I have to remind myself that. And in those moments, I'm like, wait a minute. What are they actually like? I'm now making this about me. And all of a sudden I'm in my cycle spin and I'm feeling helpless. So now I'm trying to fix it so that they're okay, which then validates that I'm not a failure as a mom. And it's not touching on all of those triggers that my childhood stuff, right? But instead, like, how do we show up where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're sharing this with me. What is that doing? It's in reinforcing sharing. That sounds so hard. I'm empathizing, but then that sounds so, so hard. Tell me more. It's not at all about me. It's just how I'm showing up for them in that moment. And I don't have to fix it. And it's actually just helping them feel not alone in their feelings, which is honestly would be really great if I felt that way too when I feel like I'm failing as a parent. I just want someone to be next to me being like, I'm with you. I'm with you in this feeling. This is really, really hard. And it's feeding whatever that longing is that's needing, to be filled. That feeling of like, no, I'm okay. I'm good enough. I am not alone. I am loved. Which is what we're wanting our kids to feel,
Yeah, because I think we go, and I could speak from my own point of view in that, like I can go when my daughter gets dysregulated to fixing the issue, like okay, well let's do this. And every fucking time it's not fixing it. You know what I mean? Like I'm cold. Okay, put on your jacket. No, I can't because X, Y, and Z. Blah 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 blah. And so this happened yesterday, and I was like, oh fuck. Okay, I just need to repeat what she's saying. Like, oh, I'm cold. Oh, you're cold.
Yes,
You
right.
your
Right.
sweater
Sometimes
doesn't
it's
feel
actually
right.
that simple. Eventually, I think I find myself like, you do that, you meet them where they're at, and then it's like they're open to the advice. Like, what do you think we should do about that? Oh, right. Let's get our jacket. We're cold.
Yes,
Like,
yes. But
but
in the
it's
moment,
just feeling seen. We all
mhm,
want that,
yeah,
right?
to be seen, not fixed.
That's right. We don't want them to feel like because they're struggling that there's something wrong with them either. You know?
Right.
I mean, this is like a very helpful reminder for myself as we're talking. I'm like, oh, right. That's right. I'm struggling and I'm that is an okay emotion to feel. Like that is life. Right.
Yeah. Can I ask you, what is your triggers? Like what is your mind go to when you're in like a spiral?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think so. I mean, I definitely have some anxious attachment stuff, but I think my biggest trigger is feeling helpless, which obviously happens a lot as a parent. But I think for me, it stems a lot from, there's been so much in my life that has happened with kind of loss and a feeling of unsafety. I was in New York. I was at the World Trade Center during 9/11. I was a block and a half away. And so when the second plane hit, and in that moment, that feeling of unsafety and helplessness. And then I've had so many different various random losses in my life with death and, just you name it, it's probably happened. I've lost two cousins, one in a violent way, one from cancer. I saw a baby die of SIDS. I had a friend who died of an aneurysm. Like, you just pile it on where the world feels so unsafe. So when I feel like my kids are getting out of control, whether emotionally or physically, because they're boys and they push the limits sometimes, and girls do too. I don't want to be,
Yes.
we're not getting into too much gender stereotypes, but that's when I get really unraveled, where I feel like I need to protect, I need to control, I am responsible. Like, everything feels unsafe. So I jump to fixing, or I jump to overprotection, when really I need to also, like, let them fall a little bit. But I have to remind myself that it's like falling doesn't always mean someone's going to die.
Yeah. Do you feel that's generational for you too? Do you have like your parents' stuff?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much intergenerational trauma. Like, my family, my mom lived through a lot of wars. She's from Israel. And, like the Holocaust. I mean, this goes back. There's so many cultures that are experiencing that. People are experiencing it even now, today, and it's like, from many different cultures. And that is something I also talk about in my course, that it's not just like our own shit that we've lived through, but it's like how we've been raised, and what's the energy that we've taken in from our parents as they've lived their lives, that they got from their parents and their parents. So I absolutely feel like that's why I feel so passionate about the work that I do. It's like, how do we start to shift these generational cycles that we are projecting onto our kids, that we're living through day to day, that we're probably even unconscious of,
Yes.
And how do we
Yeah.
start to see that, so that we can actually have a better understanding of what's going on in us, so that we can show up in the relationship. It's really about how to stay connected in the relationship with our kids,
Yeah. And I think that generational piece is really important because in my experience, it could feel like kind of otherworldly. Like, there's something else pushing this that, yes, I grew up with like a little bit of like the anxious, like the safety piece, but there's something else when I look back on my parents and my maternal side, especially, like, there was a lot of war and stuff too. And even in my mom, like, I could see the way she interacts with my kids sometimes is like, oh no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't. And I was like, and I had to do a lot of work in releasing that. Doesn't mean I'm don't fucking lose my shit with my kids, because my dude is just, he's a sprinter. He's just this running out on the street. And I'm like, this is not safe. And I start yelling. And he's like, I hate you. Why are you? He didn't say that, but he's like, why are you so mean to me? Why are you yelling at me? I'm not going. I'm staying right here. And so it's those things again of like, oh shit, I didn't do anything, but I need to let him know that this isn't safe. But in that moment, that was me.
Cut you off, but I think that awareness is so, it's like a magic gift, because as we become aware, how do we start to, again, lean into those repair moments with our kids? Maybe we say something like, oh my God, you're right. Like, I was yelling and that probably did feel really crummy, and you are safe. And I was being reminded of something, and I'm so sorry. Like,
Mhm.
I'm going to try to be present. And
Yeah.
also, I'm going to mess up sometimes, right? Like, how do we start to take ownership? And the truth is, it's usually not black or white. It's usually that there is an element, a little
Yes.
bit of like
They-
unsafety and limit setting that's needed with our kids, right?
yeah.
And our teens and everybody, right? So it's not all or nothing. It's not like, I'm sorry, I will never tell you to hold my hand crossing the street again when you're 5,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
it's not that, it's just that there are those moments where we're able to say, oh God, that was my stuff coming up. How do I now, in an age appropriate way, depending on where your kid is, kind of lean into ownership over that? Because how much I've wished that my parents maybe could take like my parents are amazing people, but also like take a little bit of ownership and apologize. Like apology is such a gift for a child too, you know?
Yes. And so, can we talk about the limits a little bit? Because in that situation, so like he did run out in the street or like cross something and a car didn't hit him, but could have, right? And he's like sulking. I assume I repair first and then come back to the limit?
Yeah, because if you think of, and that takes like our parent self, right? Like our adult self
Yeah.
state, ugh, which is not always fun to be
Righteousness.
like, I want to get my point across there. That's you're so and so, you're so, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, if we think about where their nervous system is, I mean, ours is dysregulated, so we got to ground ourselves. But if we think about what their nervous system is, they're dysregulated. They're in fight or flight. They're fighting back usually if they're plowing into you, right? You're so mean. You never let me do anything,
Yes.
right? I'm a
Yes.
big boy.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at like where they are in their regulation, I don't want to get too sciencey, but we all have a window of tolerance. And so if we're out of our the window of tolerance is like optimal zone where we can respond, not react. It doesn't mean it's cozy in there. It just means we're in our body feeling the feelings and how do we respond to it. But our child in that moment is probably in like a more hyper aroused state. So our goal is to try to help them kind of ground themselves, get them back into like a more optimal zone, and then we can speak to them. They're more likely to hear us and retain it around like, hey, let's talk about, when we run out in the street, what are all the things that could happen, right? And that's where kind of those learning moments can come in, but we can't much less likely to hit the mark in those learning moments when they're out of their zone.
Yeah. And I can tell from my experience, I'm like, oh, I need you to listen to me. I need you to you almost got hit by a car. Like, this is serious, bro, you know? And so in my state, I'm still like scared. And I'm like, and then I'm not a good mom if I let you get hit by a car. I'm joking about it, but I'm like almost in tears. I'm like, what? I'm
I
like
mean, that
cut off from
example is
momhood.
like, I mean, listen, and honestly, you are a wonderful, if you're, God forbid, your child gets seriously
Yes.
injured, it does not mean you're a bad parent,
Oh my
right? I
God.
mean, boy, the guilt. And we would be processing through a lot of that in therapy, right? But that is it. It's like, how do we, in those moments, okay, it's scary. It's okay that it takes you some time to get grounded. You have a whole lifetime, hopefully, with them of getting regrounded. Repair can happen at any time. So in that moment, if you lose your shit and you're like, oh my God, right? Like, listen to me. Oh. And, and, and like, probably to be honest, like you're human. Appropriate response. It's going to happen. You're dysregulated. The most important thing in your life almost got, like, but this is my problem. You asked me like what my triggers are. The problem is my system doesn't differentiate like almost getting hit by a car and like tripping on a rock outside, right? So for me, like it, so much of it feels like a 10, I think, for me. And, and so it feels like I'm reacting, right? And how do I kind of like, I mean, I've tried to do a lot of work around it, but it's still hard, sometimes. That's a piece of it that is relieving, as I even remind myself, as I remind parents, is that we are going to get triggered. Like, you could spend a lifetime of being in therapy and we are human beings who get reactive. It's just, how do we start to become aware of what our triggers are when we're reactive and how to find our way back into our own window of tolerance so that we can respond the way we need to. for kids. And usually that's to hold space for them to find their way back down. I mean, that's co-regulating, right? We're like lending them our calm.
Yeah. And you can't lend them your calm if you are calm.
No, and actually what happens in like codependency, which I think a lot of us have a little bit of
Yes.
that in us,
Uh-huh.
especially in our child's relationship, is like, I want them to be okay so that I'm okay. So in that moment, let's say when you're screaming at them or you're losing your shit because they did something unsafe or they yelled at you or they told you that they hate you in that moment, right? It's like, you correct yourself so that somehow then I'm okay. There's the codependency, right? It's like, I need them to be okay so that I'm okay. And if I'm okay, they're okay. We want to get out of that cycle a little bit. We want to feel, and we want to help them feel the capacity that it's okay for them to not be okay. I'm still with you in that. We might have some disagreements. We might need to work through some things, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here with you. And the vice versa, right? That they can be angry at us, and how do we start to trust what parts of us are getting activated, right? To what this is a little bit more of the inner child or internal family work, but what part of us do we actually have to, like, as our own self, speak to in that moment to say, hold on a minute, like, that really hurt, and he's actually right here with me. I love, like, what is that part of you needing? Like, I'm right here with you. This was really hard to hear, that he didn't love you, and he's still right here with you. Okay.
Yes. Yes. And do you find in your experience, like, one child triggers something more? Like, I feel like one child triggers something for me that's a little bit deeper, and the other one triggers just a different thing. I wouldn't say it's less deep, but
Yes. Ap- yes.
like over and over again.
Yeah, like over and over again. Like my youngest, he really physically, like, he jumps off and I'm like, That's luck that you didn't die." Like that. Like, I mean, granted, I have my triggers, so I'm going to own that. But like, okay, so that's triggering the very, like, really
Safety.
hot triggers. I think the other one is very triggers a lot of my attachment stuff. Just in the feeling of, I am responsible, I am alone, I am
Hmm.
unworthy, that kind of stuff. So,
How does he trigger that? Like, what do you like, he
I
projects that
think
on?
say that again.
Does he project it onto you, or does he embody those things and
I
you can
see
see
so
that?
much of myself in him.
Mhm.
So, and I think I project some of it, and I have to remind myself that his experience is different. But I see a lot of, like, he does a lot of people pleasing. He's very anxious in his own relationships that he's building. And I find myself, like, really identifying with that a lot. So it's not necessarily like we get into those power battle triggers, but it's almost like I want to jump in and rescue him from that in a way that I needed rescuing. But I don't want to over project. I don't want to, it's called projective identification. I don't want to put so much of that onto him that I lose who he is in that moment and what he's actually needing, right? From me,
Yeah.
right? I can't give that to him if I'm also in that, like, unraveled, kind of hungry state. Now, I'm still working on that. It's still there. Those parts of me the little Saris are still kind of like hungry and activated. But I also have a developed adult parent self who can show up for him and really try to help feed what he's needing in that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
You know,
But I do think, like, parenting it's like the ultimate healing journey, like, because they are the ultimate mirrors for you, whether you want to see or not. Um, and that is what makes it so hard. And I also just think for our generation, like, we want to do this well. We're like, how do we, and there's so much information. Like, how do we do this? How do we do that? How do we do that? How to gentle parenting? Like, there's so many resources that our parents didn't have. So I think there's, we can get caught in a little bit of like a shame spiral of I have the knowledge, so why isn't this working? Right?
That's right. And usually, I mean, I find that a lot with people that go, like, listen, solution focused therapy, CBT, DBT, those are amazing. And when people feel stuck in that, so again, going to like strategies and all of that, um, it's usually a sign that there's something deeper getting triggered. So those reframes or those kind of like fix it strategies don't always stick, but it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. And I think there's this idea that I'm going to give you the strategies and it should work. And if it doesn't, there's something wrong with you or there's something wrong with your kid. And now we need to we need to fix the whole system, right? When actually, like, it's a sign that, wait a minute, let's get curious about what's coming up that's interrupting that, that kind of completion that we're wanting to see. I don't even know if completion is the right word, but usually it's a sign that there's something kind of deeper going on that's getting triggered, that needs some attending to, and there's no way that that could be kind of just like wrapped up in a little bow. Oh, just do this and it'll work. I-
We're
So to
we're too
have that,
unique for that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something I try to really focus on while I'm giving kind of strategies is that, and when they don't work, because inevitably they are not all going to work, what then can we do so it doesn't feel like we're failing, so that it doesn't feel so hopeless? I mean, so much of it is about how we kind of internalize self-concept from all of this feedback that the world is giving us, that social media is giving us, that other parents are giving us in looks, that our own internalized self-critic, is giving us, when it's really just there to protect us. But now we have to understand like how to feed it, what it's actually needing.
What are some steps that people can do in regards to that self-concept? Like, how can they enter into that to kind of explore that a little more?
Yeah. I mean, I think so much of that lends itself to parts work, I think a little bit, right? I think sometimes when we feel this negative self-belief, I am failing, right? That's kind of a blueprint lens. And when we have hard experiences that come, it lends itself to feeling split like that. We lose access to the parts of us that hold maybe some other feedback or other times. So I think starting to look at ourselves as we have a lot of different parts to us. I have an aspect where I feel like I'm feeling helpless and I'm failing. I have an aspect where I'm feeling like, oh, I held my shit together in that moment. I have an aspect where I'm feeling resilient. I have an aspect where maybe I'm feeling weak, right? And so how do we start to learn those different parts of ourselves and explore them? I mean, there's so much you can do in therapy around that. But on a less, like, if you don't want to, let's say if you don't have the money or you don't have the time to invest in ongoing therapy initially, it's just allowing yourself to kind of get curious about many, many different self states and many different parts that are kind of operating at the same time. Because we're wanting our kids to feel that too, especially with self-worth issues, around bullying or gossip or
Friends.
things. Friends, it's so hard,
Yeah.
right? It's so hard. And we can say till we're blue in the face, like, I think you're beautiful. Don't listen to them. You're perfect. And yet they're in so much pain. We have to attune to the pain part in the same way when you ask about how do we as parents start to do that. We want to attune to the pain part. We don't want to tell ourselves, oh, you're not failing. Even though, like, we can objectively look at that as outsiders and say, that's not failing. You're doing fucking amazing. Like, you're so brave. It's so hard to show up every day in the world, nevertheless, show up for your kids at the same time, you know? But we have to attune to that part. We want that part to feel seen. We want that part to have space to live. It's not a bad part. It's helping protect us. And so how do we start to look at these parts that we had not as bad parts, but as parts that were kind of created to protect us? It's protecting us. We're wanting to be the best parent we can be. And one of those parts is telling us that we're a shitty parent. that's what they've learned that it's needed to do for some reason in that moment. And how do we start to kind of help it find a new role in our system? Because maybe it needed to do it then. I mean, I'm going into like inner child trauma stuff, but maybe it needed to do it then when you were like, oh, I'm being so shitty. I'm being so shitty. I have to be perfect because I'm so scared that my dad is going to, or I'm so scared that my mom is going to. I don't want to see the disappointment in their face. Right. And so great. You found an amazing way to operate to survive. But I don't know if it needs the same kind of survival mode now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I feel like kind of journaling about, I guess you can do like all the traumatic memories and what did I kind of like gain from that? Or what did I feel to be true about myself in that regard, right? Or in that interaction or in that relationship or even when my kids did that. Like I think that's part of that awareness piece to like spend time of like
100%. Actually, in the course that I have a workbook component. And my God, like if you told a parent, like, spend 3 hours going through the workbook, right? Like,
yes.
no,
Yeah.
no
No,
way.
no,
What
no.
time do we have?
Yeah.
But it truly, if you could even do 5 to 10 minutes, it's really about like helping connect dots, build awareness, start to understand it. But each step of the way, even as I talk about strategies, it's exactly what you said, Jen. It's like introducing those kind of like self-reflective components for self and also for child, not just in their behavior, what's coming up underneath it, right? So it goes into attachment, it goes into what's getting triggered. While you're starting to have a little bit more tools in your toolkit around strategy, but the deeper, I think, more long-term meaningful work really comes from that like undercurrent reflective stuff. And I try to do it, especially in the context of this course, like very small doses. You can listen to it in the car. It's like very small snippets
I love that.
for parents that are just living life, being
Yeah.
parents busy, you know?
And I think it's like even for us, obviously, we're therapists and we're parents. And I think even when we're talking, it's like good reminders. Even if you know everything already, like here's your self-development day in the car, like because it's going to help you like the outcome is going to be around your parenting, but also the outcome is going to be the relationship with you.
I mean, that's
We tricked
the
you.
we tricked you. We tricked you. Right. I mean, that's where profound healing comes, right? And it's actually pretty fucking cool because it's less about like getting all of our needs met from outside people, from our kids, from our parents, from our spouses, from our and more around like what parts can actually of us that we start to explore, that we start to develop, that we start to get the healing that comes from like a reparenting. So it's a little sneaky and that'll be, there's some future stuff coming around people that want to do more of that like inner reparenting, like reparenting while you're parenting your
Mhm.
kiddo.
Like
Um
reparenting yourself while you're parenting?
yes,
Yeah.
reparenting yourself while you're parenting. But
Mhm.
this course is kind of the intro, like it lends itself to that while just giving so much strategy that I think people are really hungry for also. I mean, it does help ground us, but we can't ignore the component around what's getting triggered because we're going to keep getting triggered and triggered and triggered until we start to. First step is awareness. And then it's like, what do we do with that? And that's all in there.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that is really important. I keep thinking about gentle parenting, it's like there's and I don't know if this is that, but there's the emotional component with you, but then there's also the setting limits. So I think it's very good to say, like, we have to set boundaries, we have to set the limits, and then you gotta be like, what the fuck happened to me?
Yes. No, I mean, yes, all of that. Like it drives me bonkers when I think we went through a little bit of a hiccup in generationally where it was like, don't say no to your kids, right? Make a different choice. And like, great. That's great. I'm behind it. That's great. We have to say no. They have to learn boundaries. Also, we want our kids to be able to say no also. Like we
Ooh,
want,
yes.
right? I mean, we don't like it when they say no to us
Right. But
because
to their
we want them to
peers
do what we
or
want to do.
to something else.
But
Yeah.
oh my God, like if someone's hurting them, if someone's violating them, if someone's crossing a boundary, we want them to have that skill. How are they gonna have that skill? They're gonna have it from learning how to manage the dysregulation in emotions. It's called like distress tolerance, disappointment tolerance. We also need a little bit of a dose of that as parents to remind ourselves when our teen says no to us, we're flexing our disappointment and distress tolerance muscle, because it doesn't feel good. And yet it's so important. I mean, otherwise we have so many people walking around the world as, just like these black or white thinkers. I mean, I don't want to label like, personality disorder stuff, but like, it's like we have to understand how to regulate, and we learn regulation through boundaries.
Right. When we don't get our way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a great gift you can give your teen. It's a great gift you can give your child. It's a really important gift to remind yourself when your child is pushing against you.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, thank you. This is such a gift.
Wonderful. Yeah.
I'm learning to self-regulate.
Yes.
But it's true. I mean, it really is true.
Uh-huh. I kind of see it like two lines, like horizontal lines that are going together. And the bottom line is like the relationship you have with your kids. It's ongoing. It's like this tape that's always running, right? And so there's repair in there, there's laughter, there's the connection, there's the attachment. And I feel like this other line above it is like the behavior, is the no, is the like rupture of everything. And so they're running with each other and they're important for each other, but they don't necessarily I think super impact each other in a negative way, because I think that's what happens. Like if I say no to my teen, they're going to hate me and they're not going to want to talk to me, and then they're going to push me out, and then they're going to do this, 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 this. I'm going to be farther away from them. And I already feel like they are non-existent.
That's right. I mean, that lends itself into attachment. And I know you just had a beautiful episode on attachment. And it's like, what then is that triggering in your attachment style that starts to operate out of like this fear-based trauma response, right? And sometimes that's to actually withhold. I'm not going to say no because I want them to give me the feedback that like there's still a security in the love. There's so much at stake when you push against that. Like, will this person abandon me? Will this person reject me? And so, and listen, in especially with tweens and teens, like, fuck, you're triggered by that all the time because there's this individuation process that's so healthy.
They're literally moving away from you.
They're truly, and it's horrible. Oh my God, when I was giving birth, I was like in labor and my child was coming out of me and I was like, wait a minute. I'm going to have to give them away when they're 18? Like, who made this up? Why do people do this over and over and over?
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm, I
Love
have an
that.
anxious attachment.
Yes. Stay here always. Yeah.
So I'm learning, that like, it's, we can still be connected even when we're apart. But so fast forward to like teenhood, and it's this balance of like autonomy, individuation, and also how to still be the safe container, because containment helps them feel grounded and safe and secure,
Yeah.
and they're not quite ready to like fly out into the world, so there's limit setting. But man, oh man, you're going to get a lot of pushback, and it's not because you're doing anything wrong. Developmentally, actually, they're exactly where they need to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have previews of that now.
Oh yeah.
For a 7-year-old. And I'm just, all I keep thinking, I'm just prepping myself. I am preparing myself for when it gets real dicey. And it is, I think, a good reminder of like, if I could have expressed myself in all the ways to my parents and they just like not took it, but they contained it without judgment, without fixing it, without saying you're hurting my feelings, or do you know how much I do for you without guilting me, without shaming me about that expression? I mean, maybe I wouldn't be a therapist.
Ain't that the truth? Same. I mean, very, very similarly. And actually, like the more you can start when your child is younger, and it's okay, whatever age they are, really. But I mean, the more you can start to actually experiment with limit setting or maybe getting out of our own comfort zone when we're scared that they might reject us, the more I think you have the awareness that when they do come back to you, it's like lighting up neural pathways in the brain. That it's like, oh, they don't actually leave if I don't abandon self, if I hold on to self, I or the limit that I need to set for
Yeah.
this kiddo.
Which is that, yeah, abandonment issues. Ugh. Blah.
Two therapists feeling their own
Just
stuff.
just feeling abandonment, need to be codependent. It's
I
fine.
mean,
It's
yeah.
fine.
And but that's the truth of it,
Yeah.
right? Is that like I think that no matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how much training you have, I think the appreciation that we're human first, right? And we are going to get triggered. It's going to be hard. Our kids are also learning and developing, and they're just doing what they're supposed to be doing as kids. Now, obviously, there's like exceptions to that need maybe certain little extra bits of attention. I don't want to kind of dismiss that. But in the kind of like overview way, it's like we're all just trying to like do the best we can and survive. They are too. It's just they're being, they're learning and we're learning.
Yeah.
We're all learning.
And it is true what you just said, because I'm like, where I started off the episode, like, where there's so much coming at us as parents, imagine what's coming at them. Like, if there's that much coming at us, what are they surrounded with constantly? I think especially as our world changes so rapidly with technology, like there's just so many iterations that like some people are like really scared of AI. And so I always think like they're kind of like crossing each other. Like the more AI gets AI, the more we're going to want to be in our humanity, the more we're going to need relationships, the more we're going to need in-person connection. We're just going to crave it. It's the law of polarity. Like it's going to balance itself out.
That's a
Um,
great reframe as I'm calming my own self about AI
yeah.
and it taking over the world. Yeah, but I absolutely think you're right. It's like and I think that's an important piece to remember even in parenting or when you're in connection because it's so much about the relational aspect, right? It's so much about connection. And connection doesn't mean it always has to look happy and pretty and perfect, right? Connection is about like how do we show up to embrace where we can just be with each other without needing to show up a certain way anyway and leave space for that. And our kids are going to have a hard time with that. That's like, because there's a lot of really big, big, giant feelings. And the truth is, there are in us too. It's just we've learned how to like pretzel our way through life and not, try to slap ourselves into place
Yeah.
sometimes.
And that's when I explode because I'm trying to pretzel myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, right. I mean, and listen, and the truth is there are a lot of things day to day that are valid to explode about. It's just how do we then find our way
Mhm.
back to like, okay, I'm reactive right now.
Yes.
Right? And
Yeah.
doing the tools. And there are tools, right?
Yeah.
There's tools like grounding and breathing and sometimes walking, or there's bilateral stimulation, or there's all sorts of ways that we can find our way back to regulating.
Yeah. Okay, I have one question. Um, I will explode and yell, usually well, both of them. But then I will immediately say, "I'm so sorry for yelling." Am I setting them up for an abusive relationship? I just think I'm like, "Oh, here comes the abuser, and then there's the honeymoon stage. I promise I'll never do
So
that
I have so
again."
many thoughts about that. The first being like, that's not the only messaging they're getting about you. But I think if I were to like interject and kind of slow down that process is, okay, so your reflex, it sounds, is to say, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. If we were to then introduce this idea of like, how was that for you when I yelled? So that there's space to check in about experience so that and even if they're maybe in a maybe they feel like they can't tell you that it really scared them or that I didn't like that felt um mean or that um you want to give them permission, right? Sometimes it's about saying it's okay to be mad at me. It's okay to that was scary,
Yeah.
right? um Because if you're talking about an abusive relationship and the cycle of that, if that's the worry, it's not often in that cycle that you have, let's say, the person who is the abuser, we're going to kind of label that for a moment, to stop and reflect and say, oh my God, how was that for you when I said that to you? They're in their own psychopathology cycle. Hopefully they feel some shame and find their way to empathy and obviously, but it's not that like abuse, oh, now we're in the honeymoon period because we're just denying out of a defense everything that just happened.
Right, right.
We're so the piece of it, like as a parent, let's say you misstep and you lose your shit and you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. The other piece of it, so I'm so glad you're bringing it up. The other piece of it is like, how do I check in and leave space to actually process the feelings? Because that's also the repair. Repair in connection. I mean, I do this with couples too, but like it's how do we find our place to being curious and empathic about each other's, experience? We could do that with our kids.
Yeah, which I think is a good point because I'm focused on my behavior of like, okay, I'm going to repair, but not giving them the space to say what their experience was. And sometimes they do that and then I respond with a sorry. So like they're like, you're yelling at me, or, they'll reflect for me and then I'm like, oh shit, like I'm so sorry. And then sometimes they'll say their experience, but sometimes they won't. So I think that's a good marker for me. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, how was that for you?
Tell me more. Yeah, no, I mean, and
Was that good?
also even if let's say you're reflecting on it later and you're in your shame cycle, right? And maybe you're wondering about impact because really it's like you're wondering how is that impacting my child in that moment. You can always check in. Hey, how is, I'm still thinking about how I, you know, lost my temper a bit. How was that for you? Or,
Yeah.
what were you feeling when I yelled? I know if someone yelled at me, I wouldn't like it. Right.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Um, I think that's the other kind of like that emotional holding component that could be very helpful. And listen, if it happens, it doesn't have to happen every single time. But right. So it's like, but it's this idea of checking in about impact.
hmm But it's so interesting, I think, in being a conscious parent, I feel like there are certain things that I have integrated. Sorry, someone so that I've integrated, and but then I'm curious. So, like, is not that is this enough, but like, is this the whole picture here? You know what I mean? So I'm like quick to apologize. I'm like quick to be like, oh my gosh, I just lost my shit. Like to regulate to do that, but then there's that other piece, So I just think like as you become a conscious parent, you kind of add on these skills that are leading you to a deeper relationship with yourself and your kids. And so like take it one step at a time because you'll feel intuitively, is there something more that could be here, that could be expressed, that could be talked about? Like, cause I was like, it doesn't feel complete for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I
Maybe that's the right
wonder,
word.
so it could be that there actually is something more to process. But I would also get curious if you're starting to become aware that it's a trigger, it might be that there's more needing to be internally processed in you, right? Because
Yes.
sometimes, you know, especially when just sometimes in attachment, it's like they're actually fine.
Fine.
Like
They've
they've
moved on.
processed it, they've appreciated,
Yeah.
they saw mom or dad take ownership. Cool, moving on. And there's something triggered in us. It's like, wait a minute, because we're still feeling in our own shame cycle. And I would start to get curious about what's getting kind of triggered, what's still activated in you, where it's hard to kind of feel the what's happening in the here and now with with your child.
Which I think is a good point. Like, if you ask them, like, how was that for you or whatever, and they're like, fine, I'm over it, let that be. And then you sit with yourself, like, am I over that? Do I
That's
need
right.
something?
And maybe you're not, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And you yes, that question. What am I needing right now? Right? Because it's hard. There's something that like I'm hearing that they say that they're okay, but I'm not internalizing and I'm not like somatically feeling at rest in my body. And usually there's other parts of you that are getting activated, around, oh my God, that was so bad. Um, who knows there's so many different parts that could be getting activated in that moment based on your history.
Oh, I got a history, baby.
I mean,
We all
who
do.
doesn't? Yeah, no, but also like to be able to appreciate that, right? Like to say, yeah, I have some stuff.
Yeah.
And how to even like, if you were to even like put your hand on your chest and like speak to the parts that are holding the impact of that stuff in that moment and saying, even as little as like, I see you, I'm here. And maybe it got activated with your kid, right? And so now you're like in your room, you're like, they're telling me they're fine. They're telling me they're fine. When maybe there are parts of you that are identifying, parts of you that, are now shaming yourself in ways that it was then. It's like even that moment of putting your hand on your chest, like, okay. I'm having a little bit of a PTSD response. I see you. I see you. It's okay. Right. Feeling kind of the safety, the calm, not being alone, the love, feeling seen, so that it doesn't have to come by continuing to go to your child to help you feel seen.
And I think for the most part now, if they say something, I take it as that's what they mean, because I think as a therapist, I could and I can see sometimes my daughter, maybe like pushing her feelings aside to make me feel better. I'm like, oh, no, 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 girl. Like, you can have all your feelings. You can feel however you want about this, blah, 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 blah. But then I have to just let it go. Like, if they're like, take it for what it's worth, whatever they want to share in that moment, and not to keep prying if that's all it is,
That's
because
right. And it's okay to need space.
yeah,
Let's say they're not okay.
yeah,
Right. And they're like, I'm fine, which happens a lot, I think, as they get older too. Right. It is okay to not be okay. And it's also okay to need some space for them to downregulate and
yeah,
self-regulate. And then you can check in.
yes,
Right.
that
You just
happens
keep
now
checking in. And let's
as
say
a go away.
yeah, back off,
Yeah,
mom. It's like and let's say you're noticing some behaviors. You're noticing the behaviors, you're getting curious about what's underneath that. And you're like, I wonder if that's a little bit residual from something that happened with us. And then you
mm,
can check in,
yeah,
and they'll keep telling you,
yeah, yes, that's what I
I'm
mean.
over it. Go. And it's like, okay, fine. And maybe in that moment, it's like, I'm having a hard time hearing that you're okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to work on that.
yes, yeah,
I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on trusting that. Because how many times in our life have we gotten cues back in time, right? Where it's like, I don't think they're okay, but they're saying they're okay, but they're still acting like they're not okay. And I'm getting reprimanded and,
or I'm not okay and I keep pursuing you. The codependency of that.
right. And the fawning and the people pleasing of that, right?
Damn, guys, we're doing it. If you're a parent out there,
Oh,
we see you. We are you. And you're doing a great fucking job.
great, great fucking job.
Mm.
It's hard.
It's so hard. Yeah. Okay, tell people where they can find the course, where you are on socials, and we'll put everything in the show notes.
Okay, so you can find the course at sarirosebarron.com, and you'll see a pre-sale for that. It's actually going to be coming out early summer. And then I also have a lot of parenting scripts for our back pocket for those tricky moments when we get dysregulated. It's just kind of nice to remember, like, what do we say in this moment? Like, and so, the reflecting work can come after that,
Yes.
but it is helpful to have some grounding statements, and it's there for when, let's say, your kids are getting very vocal and flooded, and it's also there for when they're shutting down in their flooding.
Hmm.
Um, so hopefully they're
Which
helpful
both of
for
those happen.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything in between.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I love having another therapist and parent who are just like, this is fucked up, right?
Yeah, I mean, same. This was, such a pleasure, and it's so fun to just be real because the
Mhm.
alternative is so hard.
Yeah.
It's
And
just
it's not
it's like
helpful.
it's not helpful, and it's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to our show. If you are loving what you're hearing, please give us a review up on Apple Podcasts as it helps our show grow. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.